in the back there. Let's get the session going.
Right. Very good evening. A big thank you to Parag sir for giving me this esteemed platform. So I'll be starting off the osteotomy session sort of by presenting an overview of what osteotomy is all about and what osteotomy around the knee can do today. So the key word for today in this session is versatile. So versatile is, something which can be used, which has a wide range of applications. It does not matter what kind of villain what you're dealing with, which is inside the knee. All that you need is one dhurandhar which will take care of all of them. And osteotomy is probably that one tool. So basically when we need to understand when osteotomy can be used, we need to know what ails the knee. So it is of course these four problems which are primarily the focus. It is pain, instability, incongruity, and insurance for whatever soft tissue reconstruction is being done. And more often than not, there is always some amount of overlap and some amount of a correlation between all these different kinds of pathologies. Now, why is osteotomy rising today? Because osteotomy, unlike arthroplasty, is extremely skill-based. There are no set parameters, there are no set numbers that anybody is changing. There are no set rules which apply for everybody. Everybody is not straight, everybody is not in VARAS, everybody is not, MPTA of 86 or 87. And if we are not well versed with this, then we are going to fade away when robotics and computers really takes over. So coming back to what osteotomy can do, well, of course, the primary use of an osteotomy has been for eradication of pain in arthritic knees. This is proven. We now know that whether it's for medial-sided or a lateral-sided arthritic knee, if the patient is high demand, if it is non-inflammatory pathology that we are dealing with, if the patient has good preserved range of motion, and the activity is such that we want that patient to go back to sports or go back to, maybe doing agriculture or work in an industry, a lot of arthroplasty solutions will not allow that to happen as well. So for them, and of course, if they are too young for an arthroplasty, because we know that arthroplasty for younger patients will have a very high likelihood of revision. Each revision comes with its own set of problems, own set of complications, and own set of reduced rate of success. And therefore, osteotomy is now increasingly being used. We have a whole keynote lecture by Dr. Anil Patil after this, wherein he will talk about osteoarthritis and osteotomy used today. So we have moved away from the classical Coventry staple and the lateral closed wedge osteotomy, which was classically done for medial-sided arthritis. And this has been possible because of the enormous development of the tools, the technique, and the technology that has taken place over the last 2 decades or so. We now have access to locking plates, which can be variable angle, which can be low profile, and allow us to do good corrections and stable corrections so that the patient is mobilized fast. There is no cast immobilization now. We understand the concept of a double level correction, especially in increased deformities, wherein the deformity may be lying in the femur and the tibia. So this is actually not a new concept, that of double level osteotomy. Babes in 2002 described this. It was long forgotten till Stefan Schroeter brought it back into focus and talked about joint line convergence angles. And now we know that if we want to prevent joint line obliquity with our osteotomy and not do overcorrections, but still achieve the Mikulicz line where we want them to, then doing a double level makes sense. And then of course there's a debate just after my talk about PSI and what PSI can do and what it can achieve. So it is not that every arthritic knee requires just a coronal plane correction to offload the diseased compartment. There is also the understanding now, and this teaching comes from Japan, this is from Chiba, that in these arthritic knees, there is also a concern about instability, what is now known as the teeter-totter effect, and some amount of joint incongruence that can happen. And that is seen in some of these patients who have this kind of a pagoda tibia. So there is a metaphyseal deformity, but there is a joint line congruity problem as well, which leads to instability or a varus thrust when the patient walks. Now this set of patient will not benefit from a simple medial open wedge osteotomy, and we might have to do something like this. This is a TCVO, which not only changes the alignment but also stabilizes the joint and corrects the congruence. Coming to instability, of course, we've heard all about instability in the morning sessions today. But remember, instability in the coronal and the sagittal planes are grossly determined by what the alignment is. It can be for the ACL, for the PCL, for the posterolateral corner, and even for the patellofemoral joint. Now regarding the ACL, because of a lot of good data presented from David Dejour from France and Leo Pinchensky from Australia, we now know the catastrophic effect of a posterior tibial slope which is greater than 12 degrees, which can have on ACL graft maturation and ACL graft failures. And therefore, there is a resurgence of performing an anterior closing wedge osteotomy for correcting these high tibial slopes in an unstable ACL knees, especially in the revision scenarios or in a re-revision scenarios. Now the versatility is such that you can perform this osteotomy above the tubercle, at the level of the tibial tubercle, or even infratubercular. It all depends on what the patient demands, where your previous tunnels are, what graft you are using. And not just this, even for the PCL, in fact, from this, we've learned this from the Germans that PCL and slope have a very important relationship. Now, this is one patient of mine, a 54-year-old policewoman, fell from a scooter. Now, if you look at her long-standing X-ray, she already has some KL grade 3 arthritis. Varus draw test demonstrated that there is gross PCL instability. Now, the options would be to do maybe an arthroplasty, but a totally arthroplasty at 54 policewoman is bad idea. Uni is out because PCL is just not there. So what do? We can of course do an osteotomy, and that is what I did. So I did end up performing a middle open wedge high tibial osteotomy, but what I did here is I basically increased the slope intentionally to make it to almost 14 degrees, which also stabilizes the PCL instability. And that is her now at 8 years. She's about to retire next year and has had no problems in her police work. As regards the patellofemoral joint as well, of course, there is the complexity of performing torsional corrections, less frequently seen but needs to be diagnosed, because if these torsional abnormalities in patellofemoral unstable joints are not corrected, no type of soft tissue reconstruction is going to work. So the bone always wins. As also in case of doing something as simple as or as simple sounding and seeing as a TTO, a tibial tubercle osteotomy, because if the patella alta, if it is too high, is not brought down or is not medialized adequately, if it, as might be the presence of a high TTTG, this can again cause all soft tissue reconstructions to fail. So an osteotomy like a TTO or a torsional osteotomy correction for the femur for patellar instability is again another great tool. Now this is a third scenario, incongruity. Now this was a posteromedial tibial fracture, badly fixed, collapse. Now this patient has instability while walking, along with a lot of joint incongruity, as you can see on those stress radiographs. The joint really tends to open up. If this needs to be corrected in this boy who's just 22 years old, this is what you need to do. You can preserve that knee by performing this kind of a TCVO. Again, get the joint back up, get rid of his instability, and make sure that that joint lasts his lifetime. There again, that's another proximal tibial fracture. You see there's a slope reversal. This pattern is also seen in premature physeal closures, wherein again you can go ahead, do a sagittal plane correction, get the slope back to where it should be, and of course that needs a TTO exposure. This is again central depressed lateral tibial condyle fracture. This patient again had a lot of instability because the knee would just buckle, collapsing on the lateral side. This again can be corrected with an osteotomy. You need to do an intrafocal correction, lift the joint up, get back the congruity, and fix back with a stable plate. And of course, we've heard all about how an osteotomy can be used as an insurance for all the soft tissue reconstructions. Tapasvi sir spoke about how probably 5 degree of varus is not a good thing to have if you have a medial meniscus root tear, and performing a coronal plane correction in that setting is perhaps far more important than doing just a root repair. And again, in the previous session, you heard about how every cartilage repair surgery basically will fail if the alignment is not corrected. The best cartilage repair surgery is basically an osteotomy, right? So you need to see where the defect is, what needs to be offloaded, and only then any kind of cartilage repair or a restorative or a reconstructive procedure, be it ACI or a microfracture or whatever, is going to succeed. Otherwise everything fails. So that is insurance which is provided by the osteotomy. So if you want to save the knee, irrespective of what pathology you're dealing with, you can do an osteotomy and save this. It is just about if you have a will, there is an osteotomy. So compared to an arthroplasty, you see arthroplasty is basically, like these movie franchises. They all talk about how much business who's done, about whose robo is how great, right? But if you talk of cinema, how good a movie is, from a critical point of view, it is Christopher Nolan. So that is what osteotomy is all about. And if you want to know more about all this, please come to Nagpur. Dr. Mukesh Ladda is hosting this great meeting in first week of March. Thank you.